We also value personal property, which is a business personal property tax, and oil and gas production and natural resources. My team also facilitates and provides justification if there is an appeal. Next slide, please. So why tax property? It's a critical revenue used to fund government services, such as water and sewer services, road maintenance, and police protection. It's also critical funding for special districts, which includes schools and fire protection. Property tax is dependent on where you reside within the county. Next slide, please. Now we're going to get into the assessment calendar. So this year is 2023, and this is a reappraisal year. Every odd numbered year is what is known as a reappraisal year. And in the even numbered year is known as the intervening year. Values typically always stay the same in the even numbered year unless you do something to the property to change that value from the odd numbered year notice of value that's sent out. So they're sent out to all property owners in May. And then NOVs are used to estimate and inform your property tax bill received in the next calendar year. So basically, the 2023 notice of value that you will receive will be reflective for your 2024 taxes that you pay. Next slide, please. Again, getting in the assessment calendar, and as far as appeals go, property owners can appeal their property value. Reasons to appeal can be bathroom count, garage spaces, possibly square footage issue, basement finish. Those all items affect the value. Also, comparable sales, obviously, is what we use to set values, which are actually market sales of residential homes typically within the filing of where you live. Appeals may be submitted between May 1st and June 8th. The first level appeal determinations are mailed by June 30th. So we will let you know by June 30th of what that first level of appeal would be. Next level appeal hearings are in late July to the County Board of Equalization. And we can get into more detail if you want to at a later time. You are more open for questions at the end. Next slide, please. So how are properties valued? There are three approaches to determining value. Sales comparison, also called the market approach. And these are sales used of similar properties within a set time frame. And this is the only approach that we can use in the state of Colorado for residential property is market. There are two additional approaches to value, which is cost approach. And that's what it would take to buy the land and build the building in the same condition as it stands today. We also have the income approach. What can I rent the property for in today's market? Now, as far as cost and income, those are available for us to use for commercial valuations, not residential. And as a state law, values are determined in accordance with Title 39 Colorado Revised Statute and published manuals in the Assessor's Reference Library. Next slide, please. So how are values determined? So sales confirmation is the first thing. All sales are confirmed by the appraisal staff. That's the first thing we do, is to make sure that we confirm our sales. And then next thing we do is we take the analysis and sales and market data to determine trends using spreadsheets and statistical software. Changes made to existing properties through building permits, examples like basement finish, air conditioning, all these types of things that you may take out a building permit. We will see from the building department, we get those permits so we know what's going on with residential homes as long as people are taking out permits to do so. And all data analysis that we do within the office is sent to a third-party contractor by the state of Colorado to ensure our values meet the guidelines set by the state. Next slide, please. So let's get into single-family residential valuation. So according to statute 39-1-103, Broomfield and all other counties in the state of Colorado are required to use the sales comparison approach or the market approach for residential valuation. Broomfield uses a 24-month data collection period. So we are setting values for 2023 and 2024, the data collection period that we use to set those values is July 1st, 2020 through June 30, 2022. So in that 2-year data collection period is what we use to set values for the future. So we always tell everybody, don't use the assessor's value for anything except for taxes, because our data is so old. It goes back too far back in time. The valuation set in 2020 will reflect in your January 2024 property tax notice. I already stated that. Next slide, please. Again, single-family residential valuations. So once sales are confirmed, a time trend or market trend must be calculated and applied if a time trend can be established. And this is required by statute. We can get into this now, we can get into it later if you guys have questions, but it's just a requirement that we've got to look to see what the sales did from July 1st, 2020 through June 30 of 2022. And that trend, unfortunately, was progressively increasing trend. So personal property and any concessions, i.e. closing costs, are subtracted from the sales prices. This is adjusted sale price you see in our sales data posted on the website. So once notice of values go out in May, you will have access on the website to these sales. Next slide, please. So neighborhood sales are used to revalue homes. If neighborhood sales are not available, sales from comparable neighborhoods will be used. The most important factors in determining valuation of a property are location, square footage, quality and style of the property, and number of bathrooms and garage spaces. Next slide, please. Closer over here. So this is a copy of one of our residents who's allowed us to use the information. We redacted everything off this information. So this is for a property in Anthem. And so basically, as you can see here, this will give you the information of the prior year value, the current year value, and the difference. Also on this notice of value, you will have the year built, your architectural style, your bedrooms, your bathrooms, your car spaces, and this will also include your living area square footage, your basement finish area, and your basement finish area that's unfinished. And that should all show up on that notice of value. And this, again, is the example used for the 2021 notice of value, going from 601,100 to 668,350. Next slide, please. So this, using the same account, we're looking at the same information. This is the property tax notice that was sent out by the treasurer after 2021. This will be the January 2022 notice that this person received. And as you can see, it breaks down the taxing authorities with the mill levies that they tax. You will see the valuation in the right-hand corner to also land and building improvements. And then it will also show the senior exemption or any personal property. And then next to that will be the assessed value. So actual values, and we'll get into the calculations so I can tell you what an assessed value is. You can see what the payments are available to you in the bottom right corner. And again, this comes from our treasurer. Next slide, please. So this is the same house using the new set of data. And so as you can see, their old value, 668,350. Their new value, 953,490. That's what the market did. So we are reflecting the market. You're going to see an increased value of 285,140. Everything else stays the same. Something new for this year, you will see an estimated tax. That estimated tax is going to be based on this valuation, but it will be based on the mill levy that was set back in December. So we won't know what this valuation will equate to in tax dollars until December of this upcoming year, because that's when the mill levies will be set. Next slide, please. So let's get into how property taxes are calculated. Assessment rates are set by the Colorado State Legislature. Projected assessment rates for 2023, residential is at 6.765, and commercial will be at 27.9%. Assessor assigns a property value and mill levies are certified by authorities based on their budgets. The formula for residential property is calculated times 6.765. So as I take this example, you saw the notice of value showed 953,490. So if we take 953,490 times 6.765%, we come up with a value of 64,500. That is known as the assessed value. Actual value times the assessment rate equals assessed value. That times the mill levy. So wherever you live, you're in a tax area. And all tax areas have mill levies associated with it, depending upon where and what's in that taxing area that you live in. And we'll get into an example of it. We're going to get into a little bit of a commercial valuation, just so you understand that the formula for commercial and personal property is the actual value times 27.9%. And so if you looked at that same valuation at 953,490 times 27.9%, because that's the assessment rate for commercial property, you're looking at $266,020 as the assessed value. That times the mill levy brings us to a tax calculation of $36,769.82. Commercial valuation. Residential valuation, if you took that same value of $64,500, sorry, the value of taking the assessment rate of 6.765 and coming up with the value of $64,500 times the same mill levy, taxes for a residential property would be $8,915.32 versus the commercial, the way the commercial breaks down. Next slide, please. So here's the mill levy breakdown for specifically where this property owner lives. It's Anthem West. And as you can see, total mill levy of 138.22. And as you can see, city and county of Broomfield's mill levy is only 29.968 out of that 138.222. You can see that school district gets 68, North Metro gets 14, Urban Drain and Public gets 0.9, and Anthem Metro District gets 25, equal 138.222. But understand Broomfield itself, only 29.968, and we've never raised the mill levy since we became a county in 2001. Next slide, please. And here, if we'd like to, we can get into some question about valuation, or we can give you some resource information if you'd like to have us go through that first. I'm open to questions if you have any questions about valuation. If you'd rather do that first, and then we can get into the resources pieces that we have available so that you guys can know what options you have as far as resources that are available. I know we went through a lot, we went through it quick. So if there's any questions, you know, I have no problem just trying to answer any questions that you may have.
So Jay, talk a little bit about, if we could go back, Kyle, to the slide where it broke down the different taxing authorities, and it showed Broomfield. So I think it's just a slide back. That one. So Jay, when people get their tax bill, they're taxed for each of these mill levies, correct?
Correct.
So we collect all of those taxes, but then what happens? Can you talk about that a little bit?
So then they're distributed back out to these funds. So the treasurer collects the taxes based on our valuation and the mill levy that's set, and then they distribute that all back out to these entities that have taxed within that taxing district. So out of all that tax dollars, Anthem Metro District will get 25.25 mils. North Metro will get 14.738. School district will get 68.366. Just so you understand how it breaks down and how it is being distributed from the treasurer to these other taxing entities.
Anybody have any questions? Don't be afraid of the microphone. Okay. Let's see. So we have a question online that says, how is the property assessed and taxes collected on an easement that runs through private property for an irrigation ditch that FRICO claims as fee simple? And that might be a very specific question.
Right.
Can you answer that tonight, Jay, or can we connect with that resident?
Well, it may be that we get the contact information from that person so that I can have my residential appraiser that deals with that specific area about that specific question, and we can get that answered for him for sure.
So Jay, kind of on that flavor, everybody's home is in a different area, right? And like you said earlier, you know, your property tax valuations and your mill levies, all of that is based on where you live in the county or where you live in the state, right? Correct. So if you're thinking about that a little bit, if people do have specific questions about their property, like once they see the notice of valuation and they have questions, can you talk a little bit about how they can engage to get those questions answered? Sure.
As we stated, I don't know whether we can go back to a notice of value, but you will get that 2023 notice of value. At that stage, what I would recommend, go to our website, look at your neighborhood that's shown on your notice of value, and go look at the sales. That's one thing that I always want to tell everybody, at least go look at what we use to set your value. And then at that point in time, you can come in, you can talk to us, you can fill out the back of the form and say, I'd like to appeal. You know, there's a number of reasons. And like I said, we're more than welcome to have you come in and talk to us about your property specifically. My appraisers can go through the specific data and what was used to value your property.
And Jay, on the notice of valuations, it does kind of like you mentioned, it mentions specific characteristics about your home. Right. And I know I learned this from you. Everybody should look at that because, for example, when we looked at mine one time, we found that it said we had 2 fireplaces in our house and we only had 1. Sure. So it's really important to look at those notices of value and make sure that there's not something listed on there for your home that really doesn't exist, correct?
That is correct. If you show any characteristics as stated by Abby, if you look down at the bottom here, those are specifically items that we value, okay, that we use to from a valuation standpoint. So specific items like that, yeah, if you have 2 bathrooms and we have you down for 2.5 or 3, it would benefit you to come in so that we can get the inventory correct, because that's what we want to do. And secondly, it could adjust your value down a little. Those are things that we will look at for sure. But by all means, we want the best accurate data and information we have out there makes our values better. Yeah. You have a question? Yeah. Sure.
Why is property that's held by nonprofits not taxed? Is it?
So it depends. So what happens is the division of property tax. Okay. So for all of our people that are nonprofits or whatever the case may be, can apply to the division of property tax. They make the decision based on when they fill out the form, and then they will decide whether they are exempt, and then they let us know.
What allows the exemption?
I think it's not low. It's down at the state. Like I said, the division of property tax is the one that takes care of all that. And I'm sure that they've got a system that they go through, because they come out and they audit once a year everybody that's exempt. They go and they look at the property just to make sure all the information that was conveyed on the form is true to form. And that's what the division of property tax. So as far as having a better answer for you, I mean, if I get your contact information, I can definitely reach out to the division and get specific information that you'd like to know, the criterion that maybe goes behind that. By all means, we can do that for you. I just think it's written that if you are a nonprofit or you feel like you should be exempt from property tax, you have the ability to fill this form out, and then it becomes the decision of the Department of Property Tax based on the form that is submitted, whether they grant the exemption. Like I said, what the criterion is that goes behind that, we can find out from the division. Unfortunately, I just don't have that information available for you this evening. But by all means, if you want to reach out, I can definitely contact the division and we can get some information for you. So just let me know.
Yeah, it's just a curiosity.
Sure, absolutely. Sure. No, right. 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 No, and I'm sure based on filings with the federal government and so forth, I'm sure all that plays a role as to whether they get the, well, depending upon how they file, either for profit, profit. No, I'm just saying that there's got to be, you know, there's reasons why they're asking for that. Obviously, we have a lot of churches, nonprofits that apply for those things. Again, it's just not a local level. We don't make that decision. That becomes a decision point from the state at that point. But, you know, like I said, I can definitely, if you want to reach out to me, I'll find out any information. Sure, sure. Absolutely. Thank you. Appreciate the question. Well, if we have no more questions, I'm going to turn. Sure.
No, you don't. He can sing. I'll just go along for the ride. I'm a director. I'm curious. You said you use comparable sales. What's comparable?
So comparable sales would be anything that, so the way that the neighborhoods are broken up currently in the city and county of Broomfield, when we became a county in 2001, we had no clue. We had no clue what we were appraising. We had no clue what the way that neighborhoods were broken out from the other 4 counties. So what we did is we broke out neighborhoods by filing. So if you're in a particular filing in a subdivision, we are only looking at whatever's in your filing for sales.
We live in an area that's heavily going through gentrification. So I'm looking at sales in our neighborhood that are astronomical. Has nothing to do with my property or property of many people I know who have not put thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars into their house. So how do you take care of that?
So what we do is we look at the inventory of information that's conveyed in the sale. When we get it, we double check that through RE Colorado. So basically we get the sales through the deeds. Okay, the deeds come through, they're recorded, we get them, there's a sale. We confirm that sale, 1, by going out and talking to the owner, 2, checking through RE Colorado, which is a data source that we subscribe to. We get all that information and we cross-reference the data we currently have, what's there, and what we field inspect for. The difference being is you're correct. In those instances, you might find a home that built in 1950, completely remodeled. The effective year should change that, and that should change the valuation of that property. Take that into consideration for everybody else would be saying, okay, even if we move the quality up on this sale, and you're at an average, and we move this person up to a good or very good based on what they did, that should equate or take care of that, because we're putting them at a higher quality per se, or a different effective year built. We could say, okay, you're built in 1950, but the updates that you did in 2015 and 2020, now you're at, you know, maybe a 2000 year built, even though you were built in the 50s. But we've got to take all that into consideration.
Well, I think you're failing, honestly, in that. And I did contest, and in 24 hours, I got a never mind. We're not going to look into this.
Well, you shouldn't get, you're just getting, what we did is we looked at the analysis.
Well, it was last time around, and I was really upset because the specific sales that were used were all flipped homes. And I know the person who flipped them, and I know how much money they put into it and what those homes sold for. Mm-hmm. And there were several of us in our neighborhood who didn't put that kind of money in, and we were all assessed at a much higher rate.
I would suggest, here's my suggestion, is to file an appeal this year or 2023 when you get your notice, and state everything you stated so that my appraiser can at least start looking at what you're saying into consideration from a valuation standpoint.
I would appreciate that, sure, because
absolutely.
It was just a huge disparity.
Yep. And unfortunately, like I said, unfortunately, through statute, you know, we have to use the sales analysis to set values. But I understand where you're coming from the quality disparity, or somebody that has invested a lot more money into the house to turn it over.
Well, because our homes were all built in 50s and 60s. Sure. So now they're putting huge amounts of money into them, adding fireplaces
Sure.
and granite and upgrading bathrooms and tearing down walls and, you know, just totally redoing
Sure.
interior and exterior of the homes. So that makes a big difference.
It does. I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. But like I said, if you would fall on a pill and state everything you stated, please let us take a look at that for you.
Jay, can you talk a little bit about how you know? So like that's triggered when somebody does a remodel, or like if we would finish our basement or something like that. Can you talk a little bit about how the assessors then find out about that? I think it's through the permit process.
Correct. As long as they pull a building permit for whatever they do, we will be notified of it. We get a list of all the building permits that happen, both in anything that anybody takes out a building permit for. We know of what's going on with that property. There are only certain things that we value from a building perspective. Also, you know what I mean? Like, so basement finish obviously adds value to your home. Adding a bathroom adds value to them. Adding air conditioning adds value to your home. Adding a fireplace adds value to your home. And all these things that we get through the building permit process, we get through RE Colorado, because that also double confirms the data that we have on record. So if a house hasn't sold since 2001, I'll lay you 10-1. We don't have anything updated because we don't have anything to go off of to go out and look at per se to make us go out and look at a property, because typically we have to have a reason to go look at a property, and it's usually either appeal, a building permit, or something like that.
So I think we're all, you know, I live in Broomfield as well. I know many of us do. And really, it doesn't matter. It appears this year, Jay was talking about this morning, that what we're seeing on average for valuation increase percentage is what most everybody is seeing around the, I don't want to say the state, I'll say the Front Range. Jay can talk a little bit about that. So I think what we're trying to do is kind of get the information out so folks aren't surprised. Because like, I'm not going to think about my 2024 taxes normally until next year, right? But we want people to really take a look at those notice of valuations to make sure, especially now that I think that was a legislature thing where they added the estimated taxes, because then people have a year to plan instead of a couple months to plan. But I think one of the reasons why, and I'm going to say it right, Vivienne. Okay, good. I'm practicing. So Vivienne's going to talk a little bit about a new program that we have kind of to help folks, because we know this is going to be a burden for some folks as they see their property tax go up, or their valuations go up, I should say. So she can talk a little bit about that. And then I think Jay's got some other resources that he wanted to share as well.
Sure. Question. How many people don't get building permits? How much of that is done without permits?
I couldn't even give you a number until we looked at it from a statistical standpoint to see which ones we've picked up off through RE Colorado versus something coming out of the permit system over here. We don't really keep track of that.
I think there's a lot of improvements going on without permits.
I'm sure there are. And unfortunately for those instances, you know, you can come in and tell me all day long that Joe Smith at this address did this and this and this, but I can't just go out, you know what I mean? Say,
knock on his door.
But, you know, we have to verify that information, unfortunately. So unfortunately, it can't be that I can go out there and knock on Joe Smith's door and say, hey, we heard you have this and that. That doesn't work. But once they pull a permit, we can go and look at it. Or if it sells, we can go look at it. But typically, unfortunately, it is in that situation that if you don't pull a building permit, we're not going to know about it until it sells. Once it sells, it's a different story because we have a bunch of data sources for us. And that's the information we use to update our inventory. Because as you know, as I do, we go knock on a door. Nobody wants us at their door. And so it's very hard to get information. I assure you would. And we'd be happy to come out and take a look at it. But like I said, it's very difficult sometimes to get that building permit information. As you state, people don't always take out the building permit and do it that way. They do it illegally, unfortunately, and we'll just catch it later. Vivi.
There you go.
There you go.
I'm Vivi Del Pizzo with the Housing Division, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about a new program that we have this year. It's the Property Tax Refund Program. It's a 2-year pilot program. This year is running from February 1st to July 1st, so you still have a lot of time to apply. To be eligible, you have to be either a senior, 65 years or plus, a person with documented disability, or a veteran with 80% disability. The household income must be at or below 60% of the average median income for the previous tax year. And on our website, we have a table that gives you exactly what that amount would be, depending on how many people live in your home. And the homeowner has to have lived in your home for at least 2 years. So if you pay taxes, property taxes last year in your home and this year, then you've lived there for 2 years. Now the refund is calculated between the difference between right now, so the 2021 taxes paid in 2022 and the 2022 taxes paid in 2023. Next year will be the difference between 2022 paid in 23 and 23 paid in 24. So some folks are not really seeing a big increase this year. Even if you think you qualify, I would definitely recommend you apply for the program. So you're pre-registered. So next year is a lot easier to get through your application. When you do see that increase next year, you're already in the system, we can get to you a lot faster. We are also offering in-person clinics. If anybody would like to apply with our assistance, we are at the BCC every other Thursday. So we'll be there this Thursday, and then we'll skip one, and we'll go in like this until the end of June. We also have our phone number and our email. Feel free to reach out to our department. We'll love to chat with you and answer any questions. And if anyone has questions here. You do have to reapply every year. However, the first year you will submit a lot of documents. After that, all we need is to verify your income again. And that you paid your property taxes. So it's just making sure that you still meet the qualifications for it. Any other questions about the program? No, I think, and then Jay will give you other resources.
Next slide, please. And so these are existing resources that have been in place. You have the property tax exemption options for qualifying residents. Senior homestead exemption is 65 or older and being in the home for 10 years. We also have the disabled veterans. Owner is January 1, current year, and 100% disabled. We've also got the Gold Star veteran spouse exemption and the property tax deferral program. These are all options or resources available to everybody. Next slide, please. Sure.
Just to add, the new property tax refund program can be used on top of these already existing programs. So it's an extra refund that you would be getting.
And here are two additional resources. Property tax, rent, heat, credit. It's a rebate, and that's through state of Colorado. We also have Broomfield Fish. These are all resources. This will all be part of the recording. So if you want to go back and look at anything, go back and look. If you have any questions, contact me, contact my department, and then we'll get those questions answered for you. But all these will be available online, and by all means, please take advantage of them.
So I think there's one thing we didn't talk about. So I always think about key takeaways. Like if I'm not a subject matter expert like Jay, who knows this like the front and back of his hand, there's also legislation. We're in the legislative season. So there's some things that I know the team is watching. We have a legislative team that keeps an eye on all legislation because it impacts different areas within the city and county of Broomfield. We don't know what that's going to look like yet. They're still in session, I think, until May 8th or 9th, something like that, May 8th. Yep. And so we don't know. There could be a special session regarding property tax value and valuations. We just don't know yet. So we wanted to make sure that we gave our residents here's what it is. This is the worst case scenario of what we think is going to happen based on the market, based on the valuations. And then, like we said on that notice, estimated taxes, right? What we don't know is what's going to happen at the legislature yet. So we're monitoring that. So we just want everybody to know, we want you to have the information in front of you. So then if they do decide to do something at the state level, that's going to most likely be a good thing, right? There'll be a benefit there. I know that we're having other internal conversations about what else we can do. I know the programs that the housing team has created. I know our partners at Broomfield Fish. We want to get that information out to folks because we know this is a little bit scary. I mean, nobody wants to see their property taxes go up. But we also need to make sure that we are communicating why that's happening, which is the valuations, and then also when that's going to hit, which is next year in 2024. I'm just trying to think, did we miss anything, Jay?
I think. Glad you brought
I'm
the
sure we'll
legislation.
go home and we'll think at like 9 o'clock. Oh, shoot, we should have mentioned that as well. I think the big takeaway that also we want you all to have is that we're here. And if you have questions, there's ways to get in touch with us. Like Jay mentioned, you can email the assessor team. You can call our community assistance center. They take a lot of those questions throughout the year and we'll get you to the right folks. We're going to hang out, I think, a few minutes after in case there's questions. I know some people have commitments at 7 that you have to get to. So we understand that as well.
We got you there.
That's right. We promised you 22. But if you have any other questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. And especially once you see that notice of value for your home, we hope this at least informs you a little bit so you know how to read it. You know what it means. You know where to look for that estimated taxes for next year in 2024. So that way, if you do have questions, you can come talk to our team. All right. Any other questions? All right. Thank you all for coming. And we appreciate the folks that are listening online as well.
And like
Thank
I
you.
said, please reach out if you have any questions. That's what we're here for.
Yep.
And that's fine. I look forward to it. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, we were the first ones.